listening to the best of the Martha Zoller Show. To hear the full show each day, tune in to AM 550 and FM 102.9 WDUN or log in to accesswdun.com and click the Listen Live button from 9 to 11 Monday through Friday. Welcome back to the Martha Zoller Show. And last summer I was visiting York and we were staying in a place that was right down from the York Minster, which is just a term that in the UK they use for different kinds of churches, really. And it depends on the size and that sort of thing of the church. But the York Minster, if I understand, predates cathedrals and all of that sort of stuff. And it was a beautiful city, one of my favorite cities that I visited in the UK. And sitting on the bench, as I usually do, start up conversations with strangers. And it turned out that David Dunning was sitting right next to me, and he was in the radio business. And so we struck up a conversation, and we've been working on getting together since then. And we're so glad to be doing it today. Welcome, David.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure for me, this, and it's really good to see you again. I'm sorry I can't provide video back, but things are broken here at the moment. But hopefully my voice will be enough. But I can see you, and it's great to see you again, because it was very random on that bench, wasn't it? Suddenly we got talking. And
it
wow,
was, and you had actually been doing some things, caring for your father, if I remember correctly, and then I am also doing that back here at home. So we kind of had a lot in common. And what I thought would be interesting to talk about is first tell folks a little bit about your career in radio and the kinds of things you've done over the years.
Well, I have actually just celebrated 50 years in broadcasting. Which is incredible, really. When I tell people that and they can't see me, they think I'm about 105. But I started when I was about 11, so I'm 61 now. I started in 1975 at one of the UK's first commercial radio stations, which was in Portsmouth, the naval port on the south coast of the UK. So I sounded very different then. There are recordings still around. There's one on YouTube, and I'm a bit like this, hello, welcome to the program. And then I had a career break at a very early age of about 13. And when I was 16, I went into the BBC. So the BBC story is in BBC local radio, which in the UK basically is based on counties. So it's not as local as it sounds. It's not city or town based, it's county based. So there's one in North Yorkshire where I live, BBC Radio York, which I work for, which covers England's biggest county. I work for the station on the south coast. I also worked for BBC Radio Cornwall as well, which was a very interesting time. My heritage is very Celtic, really. There's a bit of Scottish and a bit of Welsh in me. And Cornwall is a Celtic region. So I think that's why I managed to hack it there, because it's a very interesting place, and locals can be a bit suspicious of you. But I really loved Cornwall. It's a beautiful part of Britain. I worked in television as well, briefly every now and then, just doing a bit of film reports and stuff like that. And I've been an editor of 5 radio stations as well. So that's and a YouTube video producer. My YouTube channel, I think, is 20 years old now. So
wow,
those are the sort of things. Yeah, I think it's 20 years old. Yeah. It was a long time ago, and I was sort of a pioneer maker of short videos.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. I think we forget that YouTube has been around for 20 years.
Oh,
I mean, that's generational now. And you and I'm a little older than you are, but that we were digital immigrants. We started out everything analog, and the digital was just coming in. And I started my first job without a computer on my desk. And over time, it's gotten to where we kind of peaked at a period of time that whenever I took the show on the road, it took a lot of equipment to do it. I had an engineer with me. There would be a cart that and I didn't have to carry my own bags, which was great. But Now, when I take the show, I just recently took the show to Washington, D.C. And so it's small. It's basically, I'm sure you're familiar with a Comrex. We use a Comrex, which is a little unit that fits in a padded, what looks like a briefcase. It actually looks like a bomb case because it's a silver, it's a big silver metal case. And but I took it myself. It was a backpack and a piece of equipment in my suitcase. And I took it myself, set it up myself, connected up with the studio, and it went from there so that I can take the show. It's very easy for me to take the show anywhere I want to take it.
Yeah, and I mean, in the old days, we used to take the radio car with a big, massive mast
Yeah.
in it. Now, you just take your iPhone, basically. That's all you need. The iPhone shoots video, records audio, you can connect live. And I have to say that I am very much into the way things are now. So I date back to an era where you put a stylus on a record and you moved the record around so as it was about to start, and then you press a button and off it went. I even date back as far to a time when records were started by holding a felt mat
Oh,
and
wow.
letting go of that. That's what it was like in the BBC when I started. Um, and we used to have this saying, I don't know whether it's common in America to say bedroom FM, but when you're a kid and you practice being on the radio in your bedroom with your hi-fi, everything has gone full circle now because I'm in my back bedroom in my house in York with one PC, and I can do radio with that. I don't need a
Absolutely.
studio, and I love it. I'm glad I was there to see how it used to be done. But I do love all this modern technology. I love social media. I love the immediacy of it all. And I'm quite proud to love it at my age.
So in my radio career, I started out as a journalist, where I was, and I still consider myself a journalist, even though I'm in opinion, because I use journalistic standards to express my opinion. I source it, I do all that, but I understand there's a difference. And I started out doing straight news, and then uh, actually filled in. They needed a fill-in help back in 1994 because I started a little late because I was raising a family and that kind of thing. And people liked it. And I went from doing this one fill in by accident to 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week. And then I was doing 5 days a week. And then it was 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. I mean, it just kind of grew organically into the opinion world. And we still have certain rules we have to follow, like we are 60 days within a primary election right now. So I have to give equal time to anybody I talk to that's political, that's running for office. But other than that, there aren't a lot of rules about even the language rules, which I don't swear on the air, but there are people that do. I'm still kind of like old school about that sort of thing. I don't, even though certain words are acceptable
Hmm.
now to use on air, I don't. Just because it's just the way I am. But it has changed a lot. But the BBC where you work is even more different than that,
Well,
or where you work.
broadcasting in the UK is different in terms of well, let me explain. If you are a journalist and if you're in news in the UK on the air, television and radio, you have to be impartial. Okay, you can't be a news presenter and have an opinion. But things did change in the UK. That used to apply to all presenters, but it changed with a station in London. Britain's first commercial radio station, which opened in 1973, was called LBC, London Broadcasting Company.
Hmm.
It then went national. LBC began to refer to leading Britain's conversation. I think I'm right. I'm not a regular listener to it, but I think I'm right. And then what they decided to do was have presenters with opinions. So they're not reading the news, but they are presenting news topics and talk and stuff like that. And the way they did it was to balance across the day rather than within the program. So you have a left-wing presenter, a right-wing presenter, a bit in the middle, and that's how they do it. And that's made a very interesting talk station. And then we moved to having stations like GB News as well, which is a big sort of cauldron of opinions and different ideas. But again, is not, although it's called GB News, it's not a news station. It's not calling itself a news station. And that's how gets round. I like being impartial. I like seeing both sides of the story. The only thing that I'm not impartial on is equality. Okay, so everybody is valid in my in my programs and in my broadcasting. It doesn't matter what your background is, whether you're very religious, not religious, gay, straight, whatever. Okay, everybody is valid, and that's the approach I take.
And I
And
think
when
that's the approach that is the approach we should take. And
yeah,
I am a conservative uh, opinion person, but I think you can ask any Democrat or any liberal I've had on the show that in a way, I'm a little easier on them because I know they're coming in worried that I'm you know, gonna attack them. And so I try to the process I use is I ask them what they came to talk about first. Then I ask them the hard questions, the things we might disagree on in the middle. And then
mm,
I come back to what they came there to talk about. So they leave feeling good about the interview and hopefully they'll come back because it's not a good thing if all you have is one point of view. I mean, even though I believe my viewpoint is valid and I am researched in it and I think it's the best for our country. I still know we've got to all talk to each other. And if we're in our silos and don't ever talk to people you disagree with, you're never going to learn anything.
yeah, and I think that it's very interesting to hear. America, somebody from the USA saying that actually, because I think there's a perception here that it is just a free for all, and there are shock jocks, aren't there, in America, and there are
There
people,
are.
yeah,
I was
yeah,
never one of those.
but you're not one of them. No. My approach as a presenter, and I did a massive phone-in program for 2 years across the whole of the north of England. My approach as a presenter was always to remember to add those little words like "some might say," though, and that does allow you to kind of get away with murder to a certain extent. You can express opinions that you think need to be heard, but I will never ever make them sound like they're from me. Nobody knows my politics. Nobody ever will outside my close circle of friends and stuff like that. That's so important to me because otherwise I can't really within the way that broadcasting works in the UK, I can't really operate. So it's a lot of
And I
some.
really think it's not that important. I mean, I love politics. Don't worry.
Mm,
Don't get me wrong. I had a heart attack on February 5th and I have recovered completely. But it changes the way you view things when you
yeah.
have a few seconds of your life where you're wondering if you're going to make it or not. I'm sure it was
Mm,
only a few seconds because I got incredible. I was in the hospital in 7 minutes. I got through the cath lab and into the cardiac ICU within 2 hours, and I got great care. I am so thankful for that. But I had a few seconds there while I was waiting for the ambulance to come. That I wasn't sure if I was going to see my husband again,
mm.
or my children again. And it changes you with the way you look at things. So now I'm really working on one, talking about women's heart health more. And because I was a picture of health, I had no calcium score, no blockage. I shouldn't have had a heart attack, but I did. And so I'm speaking more about that. And then I'm also just, making clear to people that for me, politics is like the seventh or eighth most important thing in my life. Being most important thing in my life is being a Christian, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a community member. Then I am a American, a Georgian, a Republican. It's seventh or eighth down on the list. And, because you got to keep your priorities straight. And I hope that because throughout my whole career I have tried to be open to all points of view, even though I claim being a conservative, which I am. Uh, I mean, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said you're so nice for a conservative, I would not have to work. It would be great. But there are these um, stereotypes about our points of view, and the thing I worry about is that opinion journalism, even though I'm a part of it, it boils down to those stereotypes instead of actually the kind of complex things that people are.
Yeah, and that's why for me it is very important to be that person in the middle, basically, just kind
Yeah.
of bringing two sides together.
Now, let me
And
ask
do
you a
you know?
question. I don't want to ask your politics, but do you vote? Because a lot of journalists that are
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to say I vote, although
good.
we mustn't encourage people to vote. But there's an election tomorrow,
Yes.
not in the editorial area that I work. It's local elections, but you're not allowed to say on the radio tomorrow. You must go out and vote. It's very important.
Oh, okay.
Even yeah, but I would add that I do see the argument that in a democracy and in with freedom, the right not to vote is should also be there as well, because this is the issue that we've got in this country at the moment, and I think perhaps with many Americans as well, is we don't actually like, well, a lot of us. I'm not saying this is me. I'm just saying that a lot of people don't like the choices. So why should they vote if they don't like any of them? But we're not allowed to encourage one way or the other.
Well, and I think we do encourage people to get out to vote. Um,
Mm.
and because but my father used to say, my father was a POW in World War II and was, a not a very well educated man, but a very wise man. And he said the only place you have 100% turnout is in communist countries, and
Yes.
that where they don't have the choice. And I don't know if that was true or not, but he was a big one for you should vote. But if you don't have a favorite, then why vote?
Well, didn't I think I saw the latest North Korea election was a 98 point
Yeah,
something
yeah.
turnout. Funnily enough,
Okay.
I got
Yeah.
the
So,
feeling, yeah,
so
I
I,
got the feeling we were being told that so as because 100% wouldn't look credible. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. So I know we only have a few more minutes, but I do want to do this again. But I got to
Yeah.
go to the joint session of Congress and hear King Charles speak. And I also saw Prince Charles speak at the University of Georgia when he visited America in 1977, many years ago. And so I do some political consulting with the British consulate in the southeast because they think we conservatives are kind of a interesting group of people to talk to. But I help them with Georgia politics and that kind of stuff. But they said it's unusual for an American to have seen a monarch, which he wasn't a
Mhm.
monarch when I saw him in '77, twice in their lifetime. So he gave a great speech, and I think he brings out the best in President Donald Trump because he was great all week long. He didn't do any crazy posts and he was very generous, meaning President Trump. And then I think the King's visit was a huge success because he went to Appalachia. He went to poor areas of America as well as the big, beautiful cities. And I think it made a huge impact.
Yeah, and I think that is more or less the feeling in the UK, actually. Now, obviously, the King has had a lot of bad publicity in his life. I was a radio phone-in host when Diana died. I
Mm,
think it is incredible to see the change in the way the public perceive him. Not everybody likes him. I did a quick look up before I came on. 60% favorability rating at the moment, according to YouGov, which is a main pollster in Britain. 34% don't like him, so that leaves a few undecided. But what he did was he broke the ice because things have been very fraught as far
yes.
as the
Yes.
relationship between our two countries politically. I don't think anything's changed in terms of normal people. Trump is not popular in Britain, 14% favorability here, so that's very low. It's interesting that here in this country, you meet a lot of older people who you would think would like Trump and who express support for Nigel Farage and the Reform Party, where there are similarities and friendships between Trump and Farage. But I meet so many people who support Farage but don't like Trump at all. I don't know
It's,
what it is about.
he is a polarizing person, but I
Mm.
would where I would argue in his favor is that he is the first totally social media president. Obama used it to some degree, but there was still a curtain you had to pull back. There's nothing left to the imagination about what Donald Trump thinks. And he's had more of televised cabinet meetings. I mean, he gives press avails almost every day, good, bad, or indifferent. You can't say that he is just like not there. He is there all the time. And it's interesting because I voted for him, but I am not a big supporter. But I can't vote. I couldn't have voted for the Democrat. And I am one
Mm.
of those people that I'm not going to not vote. That's just not in my DNA. My father drilled that into us for him being for the sacrifices he made for our country that we had to vote, and we had
Yeah.
political conversations at the dinner table. And
Well, it does go back to what I was saying, doesn't it? About but in the end, you vote for the best of the bad jobs,
that's right.
basically,
That's right.
sometimes, don't you? No politician is ever going to completely align with you. What I think Americans and Brits are always looking for is the person that will protect their freedoms and
Yes.
the way of life that they
So let
have.
me let me ask you one more question, because you have been through a lot of prime ministers in the last 10 years.
Mm.
And there is this, we get this impression that free speech is under fire in Britain, where like people can be arrested for social media posts and things like that. Is that overplayed when we hear it over here? Just like sometimes I watch international news every morning so I can see how they're talking about us, because it's not always the same.
Yeah, this is an interesting one, actually. So, free speech is protected by the Human Rights Act here in this country, but there are also the laws of libel and slander to take into consideration. Free speech does not allow you to say what you like about somebody if it's not true. You have an ability, if somebody says something horrible and untrue about you, you've got the ability to take action in the States as well, haven't you? There's
Yes.
also hate and incitement issues to take into account as well. And then the other thing I would say that both, we have justice systems in both the USA and the UK that are far from perfect and don't always get things right. And we also have police officers that don't always get things right. So it's all completely and completely and utterly mixed up, isn't it? But free speech is not under the threat that some Americans think it is. That's all I can say. But it is a complicated issue, and there are many factors to take into account. But as far as I know, you can't incite hatred and violence and racial violence in America, can you?
You can. You can. I mean, you're not allowed to do that, but it happens. I mean, that's you. If you, well, the thing that I think we've kind of crossed the line on is that we basically didn't even say the name Hitler in my house. Okay. It
Yeah.
was considered, I mean, I think I can say this with certainty. There's not an American politician who is Hitler. Okay. And to use that word so cavalierly, Nazi, Hitler, all this kind of stuff, when there were real Nazis in the world, there were real,
Mm.
I think it goes too far. And I think that if you say to a certain group of people that are in a silo that somebody's Hitler or a Nazi, then the next thing they think about, well, if that person is really Hitler or a Nazi, then I'm doing the world a favor by getting rid of that person. And
Mm.
we've got to be careful about that. Now, it is true that free speech is you can say what you want, but I have the right to respond. And that's that you and you're really protecting the things you don't like even more than the things you do like, because you ought to be able to say the things that people disagree with as long as there's some boundaries around it. And one thing that I'm watching very closely with President Trump, because the rules here about politicians are is basically you can say anything about them and it doesn't have to be true because they're a public figure. And he is testing the boundaries of that with some of these lawsuits. And he's won some and he's lost some. But I think that's going to be good for politics overall, because I don't think it's right that you can say anything you want about somebody you're running against, whether it's true or not.
Yes. Well, I think I agree with that. So there's an opinion for you
That's right. That's right. That's right.
to end on.
Well, listen,
I just
David
wish
Dunning,
sometimes.
we are running out of time and Zoom's
Yeah.
going to cut us off. So this was a wonderful discussion. I want to do it again. And if
Yeah,
folks want
please
to see
do.
your work, how can they do that?
Yorkmix.com should do it, I think. That's the link to the radio station. I do a Sunday night late show, which is available to listen again. I think it's available in other territories as well. I haven't tested that actually, but it should be. And that's Sunday night, 10 till midnight, and that's got quite a bit of chat in it.
All right. Well, thank you for being with me today. And we've been talking to David Dunnan, and we'll be back. To hear the full versions of last week's Martha Zoller shows, go to the podcast page at accesswdun.com, and you can follow me on social media at Martha Zoller.